The dreary, confused sprawl of our cities is a familiar enough image. But the problems of renewal, of ordered redevelopment, Massachusetts or Chicago, the American city is scarred beyond belief. We are renewing parts of our cities, but the spread of blight, of decay, is more spectacular than our best efforts. The overwhelming questions remain. How are existing slums to be eliminated? How to deal with planless chaos, with paralyzing congestion? What is the part of business, of government, of the informed citizen in all this? But equally important is a basic question. How did our cities get this way?
Water power, animal power, and manpower. This was how things got done in the early 1800s. But by 1860, steam powered the looms and lathes of a growing nation. But steam power had limitations. It had to be used where it was generated. Hence, a great congestion of factory buildings and a labor force, men, women, children, huddled in tenements within walking distance. Result, the phenomenal growth of the American city. The pattern was set. Rigid streets, rigid blocks, adequate for an era of the horse and buggy. Additional item, the elevator. And with it, the central compact business district, housed in the fabulous skyscraper. The result today,
a dense, over-concentrated central core, these vortex. In a ring around this core, deterioration, overuse, blight. An area swept over by wave after wave of newcomers to the city's vast labor market. Surrounding this, the better residential areas. And beyond this, the green suburbs. Here is the structure of the living city, as of today. A structure which is always changing, always in transition. Given the historical forces which mold and change it, what are the conditions of the city in human terms? Take first a businessman, a homeowner in an outlying residential area.
It's not the dream house we had in mind when we decided to move out here, but it's got a lot of room, and it's quiet most of the time. There's space and fresh air, more or less, and a school that's not too crowded for the kids. Everything considered, it's a good part of the city to live in. But that's just the trouble. You've got to consider everything. It takes me 45 minutes to drive to work. And what a 45 minutes they are. That's the size of it, and I'm only halfway there. I used to be a strap hanger. It's a toss-up, which is the worst way to get to work. As it is, no matter how I go, by the time I get there, I'm ready to blow my stack over nothing at all. I'm out of a box factory. We use the last word in machines. Our production is streamlined, efficient. But as for transporting what we produce, brother, there's your king-size headache. What do you think, Hal?
I'm for it.
You, Tom?
Beats me.
I know it's a tough decision to make. There's not another plant has a better production record, but we're fouled up all along the line with transportation. Besides that, we want to expand. We've got to. But where? Lots on both sides of us are filled up with slum houses. I think the people of this town would clear them out.
They're not interested.
Maybe they'll be interested when they lose the money we pay the city in taxes. We're getting out of town. We're taking our plant and our taxes with us.
And what are the conditions of life for a mother, a housewife? What is the city to her?
I worry most about the children, I guess. This used to be a nice neighborhood, but now there's a world of difference. The schools are understaffed, overcrowded, just worn out, and the school playgrounds. Maybe this is getting to be a bad neighborhood. All my friends are moving out. You can't blame them. Take city services. We have less garbage removal than ever. Or maybe just more garbage. This used to be a nice shopping district, but now there's hardly a decent store on the whole block. Tommy's my oldest boy. He's a crossing guard. He never used to get into trouble.
Bang, gotcha!
He never used to get into trouble. And he's not in trouble now, thank heavens. At least not serious trouble. But still, it's not nice to have a policeman bring your child home with a warning. I wonder if things like this would happen if we moved to a nicer neighborhood.
And what of this child? Where does she live? What does the city mean to her?
Within the shadow of the skyscraper, the ring of blight. High crime rates, delinquency, a shifting anonymous population, deprivation and despair. The city we deny, and the children we deny. An image, a child in a city that is scarred beyond belief. It is not the only image of the city, nor the most meaningful, for a city has many images, of order and beauty, as well as confusion and blight. But here is the scope of our problems. Our solutions thus far have been tentative. Why? What does a city face in trying to renew itself?
That's a big, complicated question. It'd be an easy one if the cities were just unchanging brick and asphalt. But they're more than that. They're dynamic, ever-changing. They have a cycle of growth, decay, renewal. The problem is, why does this cycle break down so often when we reach the renewal stage? What are the roadblocks to renewal? Well, take, for example, the worst section of the city, the ring of blight surrounding the central core. This is an urban backwash area, the slums, skipped over, left behind in the city's outward expansion, the area which most needs renewing. Why isn't it renewed? Ask a private builder why he doesn't build here.
Look, my father and I are building some garden-type apartments. You know we paid for the land? 25 cents a square foot. You know what we'd have to pay for it in the slums?
$7 a square foot. Sure, I know it's high, but maybe the business district will expand out here someday. Well, why pick on me? At least I'm not an absentee owner like most owners of slum properties are.
I speak only for my client, naturally. Not for all absentee owners. My client makes no profit to speak of from his slum properties. The income from rents pays the taxes and certain other fixed costs. Other than that, he has no interest in his property except to wait and see. After all, he can't start a trend by himself.
The city has been trying to buy up these 7 square blocks for a low-rent public housing project. Here is what our investigators found in just 1 block.
The real estate agent said they know who owns it, but they don't know where he is. He just disappeared.
That's nothing. They got more owners for this dump than they know what to do with. 15 heirs, all squabbling over it. They can have it.
They can't have my place, not even if they sue me. What if the neighborhood ain't so good? It's costing my work, and I ain't got no intention of moving.
I'll move and be glad to, but where? Into another place like this? I make good money, but where can I find a decent place to live in? Things are getting better, sure, but I need a place to live right now.
We don't want to move. We like it here. Nice people live here. People we know, like us. And it's so close to our church. We don't want to move.
Here, then, are some of the roadblocks to renewal. High land costs, racial prejudice and segregation, industrial blight. All obstruct the city's renewal and at the same time add impetus to the escape from the city. On streets, expressways, boulevards, highways, paid for by city taxes, the flight to the city's parasite communities, the suburbs.
More and more people in the higher income brackets moving to the suburbs. Thus, more and more people working in the city, but paying their taxes outside the city. Solution? Well, look at it this way. This entire area from the air looks like what it is, logically, a unified area. But when you get down on the ground, you find that it's a broken up hodgepodge of political and tax-producing entities, all strangling the parent city. A stopgap answer to this might be a city payroll tax, paid by everyone who makes his living in the central city, no matter where he may live. But the long-range solution seems to be some sort of merger, a unification. Now, of course, neither solution sounds very good to the suburbanite. Something has to be done, and quickly. The problem comes down to this: how to make the city more attractive to the investor, the citizen, and the suburbanite. Well, what are we doing about this all across the nation? Look at Pittsburgh, L.A., Chicago, any one of a dozen American cities.
Something happened here in Baltimore. A first step toward getting the kind of city we want for ourselves and our children. It wasn't spectacular, but it was something definite to work with. Something few American cities have. A strong housing code, setting minimum standards of health and decency for housing. And then we send inspectors out on a block-by-block basis. Not hit or miss, but concentrated, thorough. But more than this, the people of the neighborhood were involved, with neighborhood chairwomen and block captains. They worked with landlords who were sometimes uncooperative. They worked with tenants who varied, Most were cooperative, a few weren't. But for both uncooperative landlords and tenants, we had an answer, an effective one. The Baltimore Housing Court.
Mr. Clark, your landlord has made a lot of improvements on his property, but you haven't lived up to your responsibilities as a tenant. This court orders you to get that yard of yours cleaned up. And to help you do it, here are two of your neighbors who are going to pitch in. Fair enough? Mr. Gary, you're a professional real estate man, and as such, you're a disgrace to your profession. Mr. Gary, I could fine you $50 a day for every day these violations are not corrected, and that's what I'm going to do. The fine is $500 and costs. However, I suspend all but $100 of the fine, provided you put the rest of the money into fixing up your property. Agreed?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Good laws and law enforcement. They can't work miracles, but they can change a neighborhood like this into this. We have just started here in Baltimore. We have overall plans for redevelopment, both private and public, of some of our worst neighborhoods. But integrated with these is what we like to call good civic housekeeping.
Valleytown, Steel Town, smoke and soot choking us, blighting our homes, our lives. There was much to be done in Pittsburgh, but first things should come first. The first step for the smoky city, a smoke abatement campaign. With the air around us cleared, we then cleared out 59 acres of railroad yards and commercial slums blighting the central city. To build this, the Golden Triangle, a vision of the downtown Pittsburgh to come.
The rumor spread quickly. Our neighborhood in South Philadelphia was to be redeveloped. The plans were all made. But at a meeting with the planning officials, we got a surprise. We were asked, not told, what to do. We began to look at our neighborhood with new eyes. Our children are always playing alleys.
They should have tot lots, parks, a neighborhood playground.
Look at this school. Why should it be near all this traffic?
Why not reroute all traffic on another street?
This is our shopping district. Does our church have to be torn down?
Of course not. It's part of the old Philadelphia and will be part of the new. It'll give your neighborhood continuity, depth and time.
These houses are rotten.
Tear them down.
With the planning officials, we worked out many changes in our neighborhood. But when we're finished, it will still be our neighborhood.
I was in bombed-out cities in Europe during the war. And then I came home to Chicago, to this. What are you going to do with this neighborhood? That's for all the people burned to death in slum fires. That's for all young couples living in rotten kitchenettes. And here's one for more open spaces and parks. Okay, so after you tear down, you start building up.
construction, 6 low-rent public housing projects to house 12,000 Chicagoans. The vast Michael Reese Hospital project. Lake Meadows, a privately financed development to replace 85 acres of slums. A new city in the making. A new city in the making, with clean new apartments, up-to-date schools away from heavy traffic, a planned environment for 40,000 Chicagoans. Lake Michigan to Wentworth, 21st to 39th Street. Redeveloped jointly by public funds and private capital.
The problem? To move 20th century traffic on 19th century streets. Solution? You can't do it. Needed? Freeways, city highways which lead easily from home to business to industry. Get behind the wheel. Take the measure of a city trying to catch up to the motor age. Los Angeles. Created in an age of steam, conceived in indifference and reared in neglect, the city is dynamic, ever-changing. Its cycle, growth, decay, renewal. In Chicago, in Pittsburgh, in dozens of cities, are beginnings of renewal, but little more. The hard core of deterioration and blight remains untouched. Needed, a new approach. More comprehensive planning, a determined effort on the part of citizens, people who live in cities, to make their cities what they want them to be. Here is the city's minimum potential. We can control population densities by wise zoning measures. We can rebuild hopelessly worn-out neighborhoods. We can pass up-to-date zoning ordinances for industrial and commercial districts. We can rehabilitate blighted areas worth rehabilitating. We can control smoke, fumes, industrial vapors. And with controlled population densities, we can reduce traffic congestion. But these measures alone cannot renew the city. They can be fully effective only if we straighten out the political hodgepodge of cities and their independent suburbs, and bring them under an orderly administrative structure. A structure which can bring new life to the living city. In the final analysis, there can be no final analysis of our cities. For the living city is never finished, never complete. How our cities develop, what their maximum potential is, can be seen in scattered projects across the nation, and depends on us, the people who live in cities. For our cities will always be what we make them.